thanks to the worship team for doing a great job on all those songs this morning. Really appreciate it. You'll notice on the bottom of your sermon outline that it's going to be on there for the next several weeks, just as a reminder to be praying for 100. If you were here a couple weeks ago, we issued the challenge to be sure that we're praying for 100 to be here on Sunday. Started that prayer back in April. God answered it on Easter, but we're looking forward to continue. So keep that prayer going. We're going to see God answer it, see some great things in store. So do keep that prayer front and center in your lives. We'd really appreciate it. I'm going to open up with some scripture here. In Joshua chapter 24, Joshua is speaking to the nation of Israel, and he says, "So fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today who you will serve. Would you prefer the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you now live? But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord." Now we're beginning a new sermon series today called Leave It Better Than You Found It. Leave it better than you found it. My grandfather lived by a rule, and that was if you borrow something, when you return it, you leave it in better condition than you received it. So if you borrowed a car, you washed it, you waxed it, you vacuumed it, you cleaned it. If you borrowed a garden tiller or something, you cleaned the mud off of it. If you borrowed a baking dish, you cleaned it and returned it. Or better yet, you put something good to eat in it before you returned it. You leave it better than you found it. Your life is not your own. It is a gift from God. And it's in 1 Corinthians we read this. "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." Today we're going to look at how we can leave ourselves better than we found it. And we need to take this challenge seriously so we can honor God with the life that He has loaned to us. So what can we do today to leave ourselves better than when we woke up? Maybe you need to call a family member or send them a text and see how they're doing. Maybe you need to pick up a book and read something. Maybe you need to exercise or play games with your kids or grandkids. Maybe you need to spend some time in a certain area of hygiene or time in meditation to focus your mental efforts. Maybe you need to volunteer and serve others. We all need to make some decisions today to leave ourselves better than when we woke up. Now, this whole series came together, it's over the next 3 weeks, because of a 6-minute podcast I listened to called Spartan Up. It's a motivational podcast to encourage you to do the Spartan obstacle course race, which I'll be doing in October. And each of the contributors each day gives you some kind of motivational thought. Brian Tosh is the Monday contributor, and this was his challenge a few weeks ago. Leave it better than you found it. And that includes you. He concludes his podcast by saying, "I want you to take a stand for your life." And that's what I want you to do. I want you to take a stand for your own life today. I want you to leave yourself better than when you woke up. Being at church is a great start, but I want to give you a jump start today, motivating you to tackle some obstacles, some challenge, some important tasks, so you are better off than you were when you woke up. Today it's time to take a stand for your life because Jesus gave his life for you. Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself. And there's an implication here. And that is, you will care about yourself. One way to do that is to love others. And we're going to talk about relationships next week. Leave relationships better than you found it. But today, we're going to start with you. I want you to leave you better than you found it. So we're going to begin with a very basic area, but a very challenging area all the same. And so that's right there, our physical health. When we talk about stewardship in the church, it means we're responsible to handle something God has given us and handle it well. Money is almost always the first example that we talk about when we talk about stewardship. If God gives you X number of dollars, you should return X number of dollars to God. Or if God gives the church X number of dollars, we should spend it wisely and not frivolously. Another way we talk about stewardship is time. We all have 24 hours a day. How we spend that time, we can honor God or dishonor God. So we want to work at home, we want to volunteer at church, we want to go to work, accomplish the things God has in store for us. But one area of stewardship we almost never talk about is our physical health. In 1 Timothy 4:8, Paul tells Timothy that physical training is of some value. Then he compares it to godly training, and he says godly training has eternal value. So what we often conclude is physical training isn't that important because it's limited. It only has some value. But we should not ignore that, because some value means it still has value. We need to seriously take care of our health. God has given us a body, and we should honor Him with it. As Christians, we know that looking after our body is important. Let's go back to the verses we read a little bit earlier. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you've received from God? You're not your own, you were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your body. Think about it. The Old Testament temple was decorated and furnished in such a way that people said, wow, this is important. Why is it so important? Because the living God resides in this temple. But it's really that last line I want to focus on here. Therefore, honor God with your body. Honor God with your body. If we misuse our bodies, we dishonor God. Think of all the commands that God gives us and how many of them deal with our physical bodies. We read, do not get drunk. Do not be sexually impure. Do not be a glutton. Don't be lazy. And if we do those things, it's a sin and it separates us from God. There are a lot of commands that have to do with your physical body. Again, Paul says physical exercise is good. It's good for us. God says it is profitable. And so it's time that we not only avoid bad things, it's time we start doing good things with our bodies as well. It's time to take our physical health seriously. But let's be fair, this is a challenge for many people. A lot of people don't get a lot of joy out of working out or going to the gym or walking or running or eating healthy. There's not a lot of joy in those things. I understand, and people struggle with it. It's like two friends, Duncan and George, that were talking one day, and one day George said, you know, there's nothing like getting up at 6 a.m. and going for a run around the park and taking a brisk shower all before breakfast. And George said, Duncan, you do that every day? When did you start? He says, well, I start tomorrow. You know, and I think that's how some people feel about it. Or Wendy Leibman, who once said, I love to go running when the ice cream truck is doing 60. You know, that works. Or I saw someone post on Facebook this past week, I forgot to go to the gym today. That makes 3 years in a row. And, you know, I think we can relate to that. We've all been down that road. But in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, it says, offer your body as a living sacrifice to God. Now, I don't think that only means you should volunteer at church, though we would really appreciate it if you did. That's great. I think it means you got to sacrifice your desire to be lazy. You got to sacrifice a desire to eat unhealthy all the time, to sacrifice a desire to sit on the couch. The better your health, the potential for a longer, more productive life to honor God. And I wonder how many lives have been cut short because people just didn't care about taking care of themselves. They could have done some physical training, and it would have extended their work in God's kingdom on earth for years to come. Now, I do need to say that I'm not encouraging you to be a bodybuilder or a supermodel. You don't need to go to the gym 6 days a week. Though I need to openly confess, I do. I work out 6 days a week, and I have for several months now. For 3.5 years, I've been working on getting down this routine. And it's taken me a long time. And so when you leave here today, you say, oh, starting seems so impossible. Well, getting started is the key. Right now, physical fitness is an integrated part of my life. There's not a morning I don't wake up where I have to debate with myself about whether I'm going to the gym or going to run. I'm going to do it. Now, my mind might argue with me, but it already lost the battle. Because I've made the decision, I'm going to do it. And if I wake up late, that means I'm going to do it quickly. And I've had those mornings where I've had to do that. But I've also had to come up with a bigger reason. I'm not doing it so I look good in the mirror, though that would be a nice perk. No, no matter how much I work out, the hair's not coming back. It's just how it is. But I've had to come up with a bigger reason for the why. Why am I taking care of myself physically? And I've decided my wife needs a healthy husband who can help her around the house with chores and taking care of the kids. My kids need a healthy dad who can run around the park and play with them. I hope one day that my grandkids will have a healthy grandfather. I mean, my kids are blessed with healthy grandparents. I want my kids and their kids to experience the same thing. My church needs a minister who can be active, who can be energized, who can work long hours when necessary without being overly fatigued. And all of this goes back to my physical fitness. Now, you may have situations and challenges that make it hard to get started or that make progress slow. But that's why I emphasize to you, it's taken me 3.5 years to lose over 60 pounds. But slow and steady wins the race. So my advice to you today is, if you want to leave yourself better than when you woke up, choose today to serve God with your body. No, you don't have to eat organic lettuce with no dressing every day and act like you like it, because you won't. It'll be miserable. You don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym for 3 hours. But you can choose right now that when you leave here and have lunch, that you're going to make a change in direction. You're going to cut one of the bad choices out. You're going to add a good choice in. And if you begin to do that, you'll be amazed at the progress if you will try to be consistent. Quit making excuses. I ate the cupcake, I ruined my diet. No, you ate the cupcake. Don't eat it tomorrow. Make a decision today. Now, I do need to add one more note to this, and then one very brief story. I read a study that was very interesting, and it said we are the first generation of people that have had to intentionally exercise for health. And I had to think about that for a while, and I did reading, and it's a really long article, so I don't need to go into all of it, but it's really interesting, because it says up until now in history, most jobs have been so physically demanding at home and at work that was your exercise. So going to work, the byproduct was you were physically in reasonable shape. But today, most jobs are computer-filled or automated or robotic, and there's a lot of sitting and staring at computer screens. And that's wonderful for terms of productivity or in terms of streamlining some jobs. But it also means we have to be more intentional than we've ever been in our lives with our physical fitness. Now, we can do this. We can leave our lives better than we found it. We can intentionally, physically improve our lives, but we got to choose to do that today. You know, we were talking about taking out the first 4 rows and just putting treadmills in up here. I don't know if you think about that. Anybody in favor? Anybody? No? 2 hands. 3 hands. 3 hands. Oh, wow. Okay, so we might need to reconsider that at the board meeting. But seriously, don't wait for Monday. Okay, I'll eat healthy starting tomorrow. No, you won't. Choose today. Don't wait for New Year's. You can't afford to wait for New Year's. Choose today. I love this quote. I found it online this week. When I lost my excuses, I found my results. You will have a lot of hurdles in your way, especially if you're on a track with hurdles. But you can overcome them if you'll choose today. You may say, but Mark, you don't know my challenges. No, but I know a little lady named Ruth. We have a lovely Ruth here, but this is a different Ruth. When I was growing up at the Christian Church of Litchfield, there was a little lady named Ruth Spickerman. And she struggled with MS, I believe it was, for years, and still does, I guess, to this day. But when we were growing up, Missy and I began babysitting her kids for her. And she couldn't have been 5 foot tall if she was standing on something. She was just a little lady, and the MS just weakened her body. She had no strength. But every day she would do what she could. And so she would sit in a chair, and she would take a broom handle, and she would curl it. And then she would lift it over her heads. And she would be exhausted by the end of this workout routine with a broom handle. But she did it every day, because she wanted to be there when her kids graduated high school, and when they went down the aisle at their wedding. And she's still living to this day because she chose today. She chose that day back then, that even though she was limited and her results would be minor compared to what somebody else could do, she chose to do that and is receiving the blessings as a result. Choose to take your physical health seriously. It's not easy. It's not always fun. But you will work better for God's kingdom when you physically care for yourself. Secondly, we need to work on our mental health. Your mind is just as important as your physical health, and dare I say, it's more important than your physical health. And the reason many people don't deal with their physical health is their mind says, what's the use? You know I don't have time. You know I'm too busy. Your mind works against you. That's why Paul says in Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on such things. Your mind is a battlefield. Jesus says whoever hates someone has committed murder. Whoever lusts has committed adultery. Your mind is under attack. If you want to leave yourself better than you found it, you have to protect your mind. That's why you need to be involved in a daily Bible reading plan. That's why you need to prioritize prayer. This is why you need discipline. For the past 290 days, I've been committed to a Bible reading plan. It hasn't always been easy. I've missed a day here or there, but I'm on target as of this morning. Because the priority of reading keeps my mind alert and focused. Dad and I were just talking yesterday, even though he's been retired for a year and a half, he still tries to memorize Bible verses every week. And it's just amazing how much time you'll spend invested in God's Word, how it will impact a situation you're facing in life. You deal with that uncomfortable family member or that ornery coworker or that challenging kid, and then all of a sudden you read that verse. Wow, that really speaks to me in this situation. How can God's Word speak to you if you don't open it up except on Sunday mornings? Simply put, it won't. Your mental health depends on feeding it the right food, just as your body depends on you giving it fuel. Proverbs says, as a man thinks, so he is. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. It's time to protect your mind, to take care of your mental health. Choose to have positive, encouraging, and honest material feed into your life to strengthen you mentally. If you mostly feed your mind sitcoms and other mental junk food, expect your mind to waste away because it will. Don't let it happen. As the body needs healthy food and exercise, the mind needs healthy inputs and healthy mental exercise. All right, next one. The lesson of the garbage truck. The lesson of the garbage truck. Preacher David Huss told this story. He said one day he got into a taxi and he was headed to the airport in a very busy city. I assume it was New York City. And as they were going along, this car darted out of an alley without looking, without stopping, just cut right in front of them. The taxi skidded and slid and it stopped inches from the other car. Well, the driver of the other car yelled at the taxi driver like it was his fault and cussed him out and everything. And the taxi driver just smiled away. And so as they got going, the preacher said, hey, why'd you do that? That guy almost caused us to wreck. It was his fault. Why were you so nice? And the taxi driver said, well, because of the garbage truck. And the preacher said, I didn't see a garbage truck. And so then he explained. He said, all people are garbage trucks. You are a garbage truck, I'm a garbage truck, all God's children are garbage trucks. I'm like, well, that's encouraging. But here's what it means. Every day you get garbage put into your life. Maybe it's an angry situation, and that anger is garbage in your life. Maybe it's frustration from somebody not doing their job at work, and you have to do more. That's frustrating. You deal with disappointment. You deal with sadness. All this garbage piles up in your life, and as any garbage truck needs to do, when it's full, you need to empty it. But sometimes people don't go to the landfill. They go to their family, and they explode. They yell at the waitress at the restaurant, their co-workers, or somebody just in a store. He says, so you have a choice with what you're going to do with all the garbage in your life. My choice, I choose to smile, wish them well, move on, and wait for an appropriate time to get rid of it. In your life, moments will be frustrating. Moments will be painful, and moments will be enraging. But if you want to get the most out of life, if you want to leave your life better than you found it when you woke up today, you need to apply the lesson of the garbage truck. Ella Wilcox put it best when she wrote, one ship sails east and another west with the same wind that blows. It's the set of the sail, not the gale, which determines the way they go. Why hurt people you love because someone else hurt you? Or even a more pointed question, why hurt someone you love because they hurt you? You say, well, they need to know the pain I feel. Really? Maybe they'll just learn that you're vengeful. And you don't understand 1 Corinthians 13 that says love is patient, kind, not easily angered, and keeps no record of wrongs. If you want to leave your life better than you found it, quit dumping your garbage on everybody. There is a right moment and a right place to do it. You need to have that person you can talk to that can help you through it. But when you spill that garbage onto others, it's going to ruin your life because you will have no close friends. You will have no one you can rely on, and it will impact your relationship with God. Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. When you disengage from people, it will disengage you from God. Leave yourself better than you found it today by learning the lesson of the garbage truck. All right, last point I want to get to this morning. That is the reality of your life. The reality of your life is it won't last. You will die. I know, encouraging thought of the day, but you need to hear it. No matter how well you take care of yourself physically, no matter how well you take care of yourself mentally, no matter how well you handle your garbage, your life is temporary. You can also speed up the process by not taking care of yourself, but it's going to end. What you can choose to do today is take the moments and situations and the decisions you can control and do your best to live your best until God calls you home. I don't know if you realize it or not, but most decisions that you make in life are not neutral. They weigh on the scales of life, positively or negatively. And if you want to leave yourself better than you found today, I think it's going to require one thing, and that is a proper perspective. Proper perspective. So I'm going to need some assistance from several of you today. I'm going to start with Jim Goss. If you come up here, Jim, I'd much appreciate it. You'd be a big help to me. I'm going to tie you up. No, I'm not going to do that. But you would come down to the front here, and it is double looped, this rope, just so you know that's on purpose. And start walking back towards Mike. You should get all the way to the double doors, is what you should do. Mm-hmm. And if I did my math correctly, that will be 78 feet. So let's just see how we're doing here. So far, so good. Should be coming on the end of this soon. All right. Okay, easy. All right, there we go. And go ahead and just lay it right down right there. Perfect. 78 feet. The average life expectancy of someone in the United States is 78 years. Women live to be 81. Men live to be 76. Averages out to 78. That's what I read. So let's do some interesting things here. Hey, Belle with me. You want to come up here for a minute? You're not in trouble. It's okay. Come on. All right. So, Belle, how old are you?
I'm 8.
You are 8. Well, every 10 feet, I have a piece of tape. And so that is 10 years old. So why don't you stand like right here? All right. Hey, Sam, why don't you come on up here? All right. And you are 12, right? All right. Very good. So we're going to put you right about there. Morgan, come on up. Now you are 21. All right, so this is the 20 mark. So just stand behind the communion table here, and that's going to put you in a pretty good spot. All right, hey Blake, why not? And let's get you up here. Now you're going to be up into your mid-30s, and so 37, right? So let's go ahead and 37, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to put you right about here.
Back there?
Well, you can go back there. No, this is good. Anybody in their 40s? Anybody in their 40s? All right, come on up, Kim. If you don't mind sharing, where are you at in the 40s?
40 for at least a month, 47.
Okay, very good. Very good. Well, it counts. We're going to put you right here. Now, Jim Goss, I believe you're 54. And so we'll put you right about here. All right, Dad, come on up here. All right. 66. So that'll put you right out here. Now, who is it? John Paul. You are 77. You are. Dad, we'll put you right there. It's good. And put you right there. Is there anybody who is 78, like right on the target? All right. Well, 77 is close, so that's where we're going to be. All right. So now we have people all up and down this line representing the average age. And when you look at a full life expectancy being 78 feet, depending on where you're standing, your perspective on it completely changes. So Bellamy, let me start with you, okay? You see Papa way down there? Papa, wait. Does he look close or far away? Far, you're right, he does look far away. Now, if I told you, roughly speaking, that it's going to take you like 55 years to get all the way down, does that seem like it's going to be a long time? Yes, it does. All right. Now, you see where your dad's standing. Does he seem close or far away? In between. So, yeah, it's not far, but it's going to be a while till you get there, right? But what about somebody maybe in the very back, like John, way back there, 77. What do you think, close or far away? So you're not too worried about getting down there yet? No? All right, good. Morgan, now turn around, and you see Belle there. Look how close you are to being 8. But it seems like forever ago, right? And then you look down there, and you think, wow, you're a lot closer to 8 than. Hey, but you knew that. But you just, you're like, yeah, exactly. People always tell me I'm young. I said, I am. And it's this perspective that helps that. Blake, how do you feel about where you're at on this line?
I feel like I should be down there.
Physically, is that physical pain? But what do you about? How do you think about how close you are to, say, Sam versus my dad?
Mentally, I feel down there.
Yeah.
Physically, I feel down there.
Kim, how about you? You know, you're near the middle. You'd rather be towards that. Perspective, exactly. The perspective changes. I didn't realize I was getting down this far. Now the microphone's on, Jim. Just keep that in mind when we talk here. But how do you feel being on this side of the halfway point?
Oh, I'm on the other half.
Yeah.
This might be where she's at. I don't need to go all the way back to him. Yeah, I'm cool.
You're good? You're content right here? You're good? All right. I'll come back to you, Dad. All right. So, John, statistically speaking, you're already a year past the average male life expectancy. And you're a year within the average life expectancy. So how does that make you feel? Very good. I mean, you have very good health. I mean, I don't know that you've had health. Well, yes, all God given, and not to jinx you, which I don't believe it jinxes, but you, I think, I don't think I've had a major health challenge that I've been through. So, I mean, it's been so good for you. So, I wasn't going to make her get up, but then we got Miss Corrine here. 29. So 92. And so average age is 78. You have gone so much past it. How does that, what emotion do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? That's exactly right. You are blessed. And I'm glad you see it that way. I'm so glad you see it that way. It actually is a 100-foot rope, so we would have got there. All right, I saved this one here because I'm 34, and when you were 34, my brother was diagnosed with leukemia. And for 5 out of 7 years, well, 3 on, then 2 off, then 2 more on, he went through chemotherapy, cancer treatments. And so life for 7 years was nothing but doctor's appointments and blood tests and chemo and oh my gosh, that's all. And so that's about where Blake, you were going through that, where Blake is at. I bet when you went through that season of life, you felt like it was never going to end.
Correct. It seemed like cancer.
You thought, my life is going to be nothing but cancer for the rest of my life. Now, you're past it here, we're talking 25 years, roughly. Does that feel like a long time ago? It does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And that's incredible to think about. Something that enveloped your world for 7 years is now like, wow, you probably have more things you forgot than you remember from.
Yeah.
All right, everybody can be seated. I appreciate you all coming up here and helping me out with that. So we don't trip anybody, I'll pull it in a little bit, so that'll be fine. But it is really interesting when you think about the perspective of life. You might be in a season right now. Let's go back to that first point, physical health. And you might say, well, Mark, you just don't know the challenges I have. You're right, I don't. But I do know that when cancer envelops your world and you think it's going to be nothing else, that 25 years later you say, wow, it's hard to imagine that it's been that long. At time moves and continues to move on. You go through seasons in life, and whether you're 8 or 77 or 92 or anywhere in between, you need to keep a proper perspective on life. The season you're in will not last forever. And so my advice to you, if you're a kid or a young adult, love it. Love it. Enjoy it. And I guarantee you that people on the back end of the line would tell you to do the same thing. Embrace the youth, the strength that you have, the courage that you can muster up, and just go out there and live and love life. But we need one more proper perspective. Francis Chan came up with this, and I thought it was very, very telling. I have another rope. This one's a little bit bigger. Not tying anybody up. Don't worry. Not the plan today. This rope goes on for a long, long time. It goes on and on. Actually, it's an infinity rope. It goes on forever. box said it was. It just keeps going and going and going. It goes on forever. Except for this little interesting piece of tape on the end. It's about 4 inches long. And this rope as a whole represents your existence. It goes on to infinity. Since before you were formed, God knew you. And from that point forward, this is your entire existence. But this represents your life on earth. So this whole rope that we just stretched out all down the aisle, talking about all the seasons of life and as things come and go, that actually is summed up in your existence with something this big. And this is your existence after this life on earth is over. Now here's the problem. So many people spend so much of their time investing in, if I go to school here, and I work for 40 years here, and save enough for retirement, I can be happy right here. Hello? Have you not missed the rest of your existence that goes on and on and on? Now, one of the great joys, at least in my sister, my brother, and I would all agree, is seeing our parents get to retire, have a great deal of health to enjoy that at this point. We are so thrilled for them. It's a great blessing. But the bigger blessing isn't that they're going to, retire for, a couple decades. It's the fact that they have made a decision somewhere in their life to trust their life to Jesus. And that changes the whole road. Because guess what? You can save all the money you want. You can have 5 vacation homes. You can do anything you want to do. But if your whole investment in this life is in this life, look at what you're missing out on. Look at the perspective. Where is cancer on this road? I couldn't make a mark small enough. Where are the challenges and difficulties of life on this road? Now, that's not to minimize your challenges. They're real. That's not to minimize your difficulties. They hurt. But I want you to have the right perspective. God has promised us eternity so we can endure the 7 years of chemo. So we can endure the challenges and difficulties of broken relationships. So we can get through Satan's attacks. And it's all based on one decision. As the worship team joins me, I want you to think about it. It's all based on one decision. And that is, who are you going to trust your life to? See, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I bet you imagine you're fairly smart too. But I'm not smart enough to get down this rope on my own, and neither are you. I'm not strong enough to account for all my mistakes and difficulties. But one man was, and his name is Jesus Christ. And he went to the cross to die for you. And the one thing that changes this rope, the one thing that changes this line down the aisle, is one decision. It's not where you went to school, what career you had, or even who you chose to marry. It is the decision on who will be Lord of your life. Will it be yourself? Or will it be Jesus Christ? That makes all the difference in your life. Choose today whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I can't make that decision for you. But if you are ready to put Jesus first, if you're ready to receive him in baptism or call this place your church home, you make that decision today. Choose today by meeting me down front as we stand and as we sing.